And now, making their way into the arena, hailing from the great pro wrestling state of Massachusetts, they are the hosts of the Top of the Cage podcast. Here are Bill and Juice.
And thank you again, Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, always making us sound so good. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the super producer. I am Bill, joined always by my tag team partner, my wrestling confidant. He is the future booking genius and the prince of pro wrestling podcasts. He is Justin Juice Cannon. Boom, baby. Juice, tonight we welcome on one of my favorite guests, and I know in our last episode we talked about not having favorites, but I truly do think that this was an absolutely great episode. He is the Texas Terminator. He is Jay Alexander, and what a dude. Like, what a guy. I can't believe, by the way, when he just dropped in the interview, like, yeah, being born in 95. I was like, dude, you're only 27? That is crazy to me.
Nah, it's crazy. And he's a wicked talented dude. Just recently got really exposed to him, and I'm glad we did because he's a special talent, great dude, and that's definitely one of my favorites we've had on. I know we said we don't play favorites, but this time we do. Jay Alexander's a guy to watch. Definitely follow him on the socials. You hear him plug his socials in there, and definitely go on YouTube, right? Jay Alexander, the Texas Terminator. Watch his matches, man. There's plenty of them on there. He's wrestling Reality Wrestling. That's where he's at now, which is Booker T's promotion that Booker T owns. This dude's a gem.
Yep, and we will get into all things training under Booker T and so much more. And ladies and gentlemen, here is the Texas Terminator, Jay Alexander.
Hello, Top of the Cage listeners. I am Juice, joined by my co-host Bill, and we got a special guest this week. We got the Texas Terminator himself. You see him with the bling on his both his shoulders. It's Jay Alexander, who has trained under Booker T and wrestled for Booker T's promotion, Reality of Wrestling. Simply checked it out. A bunch of matches on YouTube. And, I think they used to be on Fight, right?
Used to be on Fight. I know we're on national syndicated television, CW39. I think across like 50 plus markets, predominantly on YouTube. That's where our main base stays pretty much. If you can't find Reality Wrestling, you can definitely find it on YouTube. But there's countless outlets now. I'd be Twitch. We're partners with Twitch as well. So it's an excuse pretty much if you can't find Reality of Wrestling, because you'll find it somehow somewhere.
I feel like we've had a few guests on before, people who are just owners of promotions or just bookers of promotions, and we were talking about how like companies being on Twitch is just like the future for wrestling. I mean, it's almost like the future is now because you see it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like working for a company that's, doing not only live TV but doing stuff on Twitch, YouTube, different things like that?
It's a cheat code, if I'm being honest. There's professional wrestling is this bubble, right? But when you enter this bubble, you find that there's like so many subgroups. Independent wrestling, let's equate it to, well, man, there's so many ways that I can put this. How to put it in like the easiest way to like digest. Independent wrestling, you have your, whether you're in a barn, whether you're in an arena, whether you're in a gymnasium, all dating all the way back to like kind of the start of professional wrestling in its heyday. It starts out like, just what's the coolest moves? How can you get the biggest crowd reaction? And then obviously when you segue into, television impact wrestling, AEW more so now than maybe in the beginning. And then of course, the top of the mountain that everyone knows and recognizes, WWF, WWE, where it's more, you can do cool moves, cool, but it's more television based. And like, yes, you're performing for the audience, but at the end of the day, you always see them come back front and center right to the center of the ring, and they pan towards usually one direction, which is called the hard cam. To start out at reality wrestling is, especially under Booker, who, as we all well and know, is now with NXT, has been with WWE, gosh, for the past 30 years, 20, 30 years. It's a cheat code because a lot of guys get in a ring, they're trained by someone who might have had somewhat of a career, or maybe they do have some clout to their name. And they're kind of just, okay, you're trained for X amount of months, go out and get bookings, right? And don't hurt somebody, right? Whereas, you start out at reality wrestling and, hey, you learn the intricacies of like, this is from rolls. You start out on rolls, right? How to protect yourself and carefully, roll yourself over your shoulders and, flat back bumps into, now flip bumps. And then, you're it's a building block, right? Step by step up until, you go through beginner, then you go to intermediate, then you get to advanced. And throughout all this process of learning ins and outs of wrestling, you have that what's the word I'm looking for? That blessing that when you do stuff, I take a bump, right? You feed up, you see, let the crowd see your face, but then right there is one of your roamers, right? Or you just do a big slam, bang, you do your full 360 to the crowd, but then you end right there at the hard cam. It's a cheat code of like, this is what we're doing, but always remember, you have thousands upon thousands in the stadium, but then you have millions upon millions at home, right? So you need to be able to entertain and connect with all of those people. And that's why you can make, so many people have certain, statements or certain things that they can make about like COVID. I thought COVID, especially when WWE was doing all of the empty arena stuff, that's where you really see who the true master performers are. Because it is silent as you hear a cricket chirp, right? And of course they've started funneling sound in and such, but it's not realistic, right? So how do you tell that story and keep that emotion high with not a fan in a seat in the crowd, but yet you have millions upon millions watching at home? It's a cheat code. It is so much more of a blessing than just, hey buddy, here's how you roll, here's how you take a slam, go out and don't hurt nobody, as opposed to like building block upon building block upon building block. And the one thing I'll always say about reality wrestling is that's why you see no matter where in the state of Texas, there's at least at minimum 2 to 3 per superstars, man and woman, on the marquee, on the poster, anywhere in Texas that was from reality wrestling. It's a cheat code. It's unfair. It is, but
And you learned from one of the greatest to ever do it in the business too. And I'm sure training under Booker is something that you carry with you every time you step in a ring, and something, I mean, it just coming across from that explanation there, clearly you've learned so much from his tutelage. So what is it like training under the great Booker T?
man, Booker is he's a character. What you see is what you get. It doesn't matter if he's on NXT, if he's if you're at the show and he happens to, because he does a phenomenal job of staying hidden and letting the talent that he's putting forth soak up the limelight. Because when you hear like, oh, Booker's in, Booker's in, like you come to see his show, and sure, it's interesting and it's exciting to see the talent that's up and coming underneath him. But with Booker's there, you want to meet him, right? You got to meet him. But he does a really good job of like hiding and/or like we don't really have a preferred like back door at the arena. We have back ways that you can kind of get out of the arena. But he'll always find a way to like snake his way out before people can see him. He'll have this times, man, where he's he'll every once in a while he'll give what the fans what they want. He'll go out there and kiss some babies and shake some hands. But what you see is what you get, whether it's in the back office on NXT, in the training facility. He's a character. It's crazy because for a lot of us that are more like advanced or that are on shows that are traveling that are actually out there on the scene, it's not a whole lot of like coaching, quote unquote, but it's tidbits. And he'll say something, and it's like it's the smallest thing, but just like it takes time because Booker is very traditional. Booker is very wise, and so he'll say something, walk different, right? One of my guys, one of my closest friends, he's this bigger, burlier guy, and the character that he's going for, how he's portraying it doesn't exactly equate to how he wants it to come across. And so Booker goes, walk different. And you're kind of like what? Like walk different? What does it even mean? But it's funny because once you get to know Booker and the intricacies and like the way that he explains certain things, and I've been there for in total 3 years. And once you figure out like what that means, when he says that, you're like, okay, as opposed to someone who maybe hasn't heard that or maybe doesn't know him as well, and it's just like, fuck different. I don't know how to properly explain it. You just kind of would have to be there. It's just little sub points, but it makes all the difference.
Name one of these things that walk different for your friend. Can you name like one of these little tidbits or little advice he gave to you specifically?
Oh man, I'm one of his. You know what? I always keep it honest. I have a really bad tendency of, I don't want to say forgetfulness, but you got to understand, like when you're performing in books, words, it's live theater, right? Like he says it that way. It's a Shakespeare, right? You're supposed to. I can hit he's like, I can hit a spinning heel kick or an axe kick, right? But anytime, what makes that spinning heel kick or axe kick different from the 12 billion wrestlers that can throw it, as opposed to when Booker T throws it? Well, you can see the clip where he's, there's the kick, and he's got the hands up like that, right? It's portrayal, right? And so the art of pro wrestling is knowing, hey, we have to do this, we have to do that, we got to go here, we got to go there, or if it's not discussed, it's not pre-planned, and it's on the fly, because there is that difference. You can either call it in the back, and then it's memorize everything and go through it, which if there's a mistake, you can tell, oh, that's planned, as opposed to like, even when it's like, hey, let's call it on the fly, even if something's weird, you're like, oh, that was weird, but like, as long as there's action, here's another Booker saying, as long as there's action, right, there's movement, it looks authentic, because at the end of the day, we're wrestling. This is wrestling. For me, I have a hard time of like, if something's I almost like calling it on the fly, as opposed to like memorizing it, because when you memorize it, man, you have to remember and think X amount of steps ahead of like what we're doing, what we're trying to go for, as well as kind of audible and throw some tidbits here and there, because sometimes you might have something planned, but the crowd is a completely different, direction, or the crowd is looking for something completely different. So you have to, that's the magic of pro wrestling, when you can hear the crowd, know what that, go, give them what they want, or maybe don't give them what they want, depending on if you're a good guy or a bad guy or what have you. My problem is I get too comfortable in the match that like I'm feeling it as I go, that like I lose where I'm at, right? And so like we'll go for something, and you can obviously tell, oh, that something's not right there. But then, because I'm a worker, I'm a professional, I know how to, audible, whatever we're doing, if it looks a little awkward, whatever, bang, we're here, we're there, I'll put you in a position, send you here, go there, bang. But as Booker says, CJ, it's just little things. If I had a penny for every time I heard, it's little things, because like, not putting myself over, but just keeping it real. I'm one of the best kept secrets in Texas, and it's just only a matter of time before it blows the roof off, and or nationally. And I know that, in all modesty and humbleness, but there is an understanding of like, I know what I'm capable of and what I have to offer. Right? You don't have 2 championships, and in talks with other promoters of future or future opportunities and gold, for, excuse my language, shits and giggles, right? Like there's a reason. But it's frustrating, like with me, when like you know where you want to be and what you're capable of, and why am I not getting this? Like I'll do something, and it's like, I'll give you an example. We were doing a drill training, and I couldn't even tell you the full sequence, but essentially it was, I come off the ropes, go over for a sunset flip, he rolls through, off the roll through, I try and pin him. Oh no, he got away. Then he comes at me with a cross body. As soon as he lands it, one kick out. Now we're back up to our feet in our fight stance, right? And I came off the rope, and I'm doing everything. I'm flying through. This is our third or fourth sequence of the night. Booker just walks in, and I'm killing it that night. Everything's going great. I'm looking good. I'm on fire. I'm moving. Everything's working. Everything's feeling good. And I come off the ropes, and I catch myself, and I pull myself back, because I brain farted for that split second of the sunset flip, right? So I forget what the filler was there. I think I grabbed whatever. He looks up to go for it. He comes at me. I give him, I give him the boot, which is an audible, right? Give him the boot, then roll over him, throw him back. He goes, "What happened?" I say, "Just give it to me." He comes back, gives me the cross body, throw him off, and I come up. And as soon as I come up my fight stance, my head's right here, and I'm like, before anyone says anything, I'm just like, I already know. Here comes Book, and lo and behold, here we go with the CJ, just little things. I'm like, and for me, it's, I'm predominantly a bad guy. So essentially I have to have my quote unquote playbook of, when we're in the match, what's a sequence, or what's, a spot or two or three that I can do to give the other guy life, right? Because I have a tendency of these muscles, this brawn, this aggressiveness is essentially a shoot, as as they say. It's this is real. Like I get in that ring, and I let the other person know, like, you're in my house. You know what I mean? This is my ring. When I step in it, that we're gonna compete, and you're gonna feel it, right? I have a tendency of having great matches, but how do you really get that "this is awesome" chant, right? You tell a story, and that's ultimately the goal. And I'll have certain things that I'll do, and it can all be better. That's ultimately what it boils down to. So, when book says, it's little things, to your question that I've now rambled on for 10 minutes about. It's the little things, and have your playbook, right? Have your playbook. People are gonna be like, what does that mean? Have your playbook? Like, know your moves? You don't know your moves? No, I know my moves. I know what he means by when he tells me have my playbook. To answer your question, 20 minutes later.
So I know you've been in like match types like the Rumble matches and like Battle Royale matches. So, yeah, and you've obviously gone the distance in both those types of matches. So how is it different? You're saying, like utilizing your playbook and kind of you like to call things on the fly. What's different between a match like that and just a regular singles match one-on-one?
Oh man. So when you have, man, so when you have, so the difference, I've only been in two. One was a 27, something like that, man and woman rumble, and then the other was like I don't even know, it was like a teen. Like I think I said 33 on the post or something when I uploaded it when I talked about it. Anyways, at Reality Wrestling, it was like the King of the Summer to kick off the Summer of Champions event that we were doing. That was just on the fly. We had our main sequence of, like, because obviously, as we know, shocker, wrestling is predetermined, right? It's very much real. It's very much real. Okay, so that's where you get the heat of, like, well, fake. Listen, it is scripted. Okay, you go to the movies, you see Marvel, right? You go to medieval times. Y'all know what medieval times is?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you go to medieval times. I love medieval times. Oh my god, you go to medieval times, you can't watch pro wrestling. That's the point, right? That's what it is. So the Rumble at Reality Wrestling, right? You only have X amount of what's the point of the match, really? Booker's whole keys to a match, really, in your note of like a singles match. There's the first 2 points, and if I really hope you have some wrestlers that are going to be listening to this, because there's a lot of tidbits they can really take. Who am I? But I know some stuff. Booker says, what's the first thing that matters, right? The time. Okay, the time matters. You got 20 minutes. You got 10 minutes. You got 5 minutes. I've had times where it's, hey, you got 5 minutes, curtain to curtain. So we have 3 minutes of action. 5 minutes, curtain to curtain, usually a minute per entrance. 3 minutes of action, right? The second point, the story, right? So 5 minutes, curtain to curtain. It's a 3-minute match. Jay's going over. That means I gotta beat the holy hell out of this dude. It's a squash match, right? You got 20 minutes bell to bell. Okay. What is the story? There's no story. All right, let's just go out there and have a good match. There's no story, right? Like let's tell a story, right? And then the guys and the two guys in the match can tell that story. 20, you got 20 minutes in a last man standing match, which I just had for the APW Heavyweight Championship, right? Me and this guy had seen each other in 3 different companies. He backstabbed me as a teammate. We tagged together. Backstabbed me, left me for dead against the other team, who capitalized on like a shield power bomb. Never taken one of those again. Worst bump I've ever taken in my life. Saw him again on a one-on-one for the IWE Championship qualifier. He got over by the skin of his teeth on that one and moved along. So for me, it was, hey, I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna beat your ass. It's over. It's done. You're done. Went to his house, APW, challenged him for his title. No contest. Came back. How do you end this now? 4 matches, right? Going into it. How do you end it? Right. The story is, well, you got 30 minutes in a last man standing main event for the APW Championship. Last man standing match. Well, that tells itself, right? You have the 4th match now. Someone's going to have a winner, and even the GM had gone on record on his podcast and said, I don't care if they both go down for 10. I will walk out there, stand them up in the corners, and restart the match, and they'll go another 30 minutes. Right? That's the story. So some stories write themselves, and you just have to, 30 minutes, last man standing. What do you want to do? Beat the holy hell out of each other. You might have a certain sequence where, hey, I go here and do this, boom. You go here and you go do this, boom. But then all that gray area, we call it peppering, all that gray area, beat the holy hell out of each other. That's the story. So you have that in a one-on-one. But when you have like the Rumble, hey, just tell a story, like not tell a story, but like make it interesting. The crowd just wants to see crazy stuff, whatever. There's one big guy, everyone takes him out. That stuff's kind of easy to go through. It's just on the fly. You're talking to someone, hey, bang, bang, hey, take a line out. Okay, boom, you line them out, whatever. It's really easy to talk and to, because there's so much going on. But when you get down to that like handful, like, me, I think it was me, Tommy, Dylan, I think there's one other person, I think Rudy, Nathan. Anyway, that's where you start, having your sequences and your spots, right? Of like, all right, we're gonna go here, do this, do that, boom, boom, boom. You're gonna go here, you're gonna feed it, and you start kind of panning it out. That's where you kind of tell, like, quote unquote, the story, because that's where it matters, is like the last few people. Same kind of concept at Lions Pride. Love Lions Pride. That's another company when you talk about reality reality. If I give my ode to anything, is Lions Pride Sports out in Bryan College Station. Definitely, if you're you guys, if you're a wrestling fan, whatever, definitely check them out. They have a great production. Not as big of a reach, obviously, as reality wrestling, because it's not Booker T, but they definitely have a amazing production out there in Aggie Land. That's my second home. I look at. That was the other Rumble. That was more of almost a 30-man, but it was like a 27 or 26-man and woman Royal Rumble. And honestly, that whole Rumble, I don't know if y'all saw that, was honestly built around me. Like I was the nucleus of that, because they were pushing the guy that won for the championship. But anyone in that company knows, and in the way that I was brought into that company is from day one that I was brought into that company, I was almost like, that it's any wrestler's, excuse my language, but any wrestler's wet dream, right? You get brought into a company, F everyone up, destroy everyone, beat his ass, kill his manager, grab the mic, cut a mean promo. I didn't. It got so my heat got so high in that company that I didn't say a word. My music would hit, and I literally remember one of the grudge matches I did. My music hit, and I come out, and I'm surrounded at the curtain by people just like thumbs in my faces. And it's just like, man, that is a heel's dream, is to just, your music hits and you're already just, they're spitting at you already. But that Royal Rumble was tough because I walk in and I have all 20 some odd people. Hey, so I got a spot with you. I'm like, all of y'all have spots with me. I was like, okay. I was like, time out. I was like, if you're not significant in this Rumble, no offense, we're not doing a spot. We're not doing a spot. You come in, I'll confront you, and you can get something in on me. At the end of the day, I'm gonna set you down, because that was the point. They all have to challenge even though I'm not the champion or I'm not the top guy in that company. I am, I don't know the right words you could say, like the guy, right? Like I'm that MFer. Until we got to the final sequence, I'm like, all right, y'all two or three matter, right? So what are we doing? That's the difference between like a one-on-one. The preparations, of course, different, but a Rumble and a God, what's the other, a Rumble, Royal Rumble, and a Battle Royal.
Royal.
Yes, a Royal Rumble and a Battle Royal, as opposed to like singles. Like typically, you can tell a story in all aspects, right? Because that's what essentially pro wrestling is storytelling. But the time and the backstory is what matters most. So the story that we told is, hey, Jay's that guy. Everyone thinks that, of course, throughout that Royal Rumble, that I'm just going to destroy it, which I did, destroyed everyone, and walk out, facing the champion that night. And it gets down to me. And honestly, it was also the story of attrition, because number one, last all the way to the end, ended up winning. And then number two, I pretty much threw out because he was just a gimmick. But I was number three. So essentially two. So 1 and 2 lasted throughout the entire Royal Rumble, and the person they thought was going to win, right, ended up losing. And the way that we did that, even the story behind that was, hey, when we first met, I slapped the living daylights out of you, and the crowd lost their mind, right? So instead of just throwing me to the floor, let me slip on a banana peel, right? And you have this, they're thinking you can just clean my clock, but you just slap the piss out of me, and I collapsed to the floor. So that was a story that we told that I wanted to get over. It's the same as like, they had me do this spot with this female and they wanted me to swipe her feet. I'm like, dude, I'm a 220-pound behemoth, but you want me to swipe this little girl's feet? I was like, if it's cool with her, she eliminates her rival over the top rope, and she's, this prodigy, this young, super baby face. Everyone loses their minds. All the little girls love her in the crowd. And what's better than me, like, coming over and swiping her feet and her just falling? I'm like, man, that's a moment. Like, Booker's huge on moment. I don't give a rat's tail what moves you can do. If you get big shoulder block, get the shoulder block off, and just, because no one wants to see the good guy get, pummeled, and then the bad guy standing over him, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's just makes you you right, you're. So I was like, man, I walk right up to her behind her, and I'm, right here. Everyone's like, oh my god, oh my god. The minute she turns around, right there, guzzle her neck, right, hold her out like this, just, I'm mouthing sweet nothings to her. The crowd, it looks like I'm talking mess to her, but like, you're so beautiful, I love you. You're so sweet. I'm just whispering sweet nothings to her. But the crowd thinks that I'm snarling at her and saying, horrible things to her. Just throw her down, right? She takes the mat, just kick her out. When I did that, all you hear is screeches from every little girl in that crowd, just mortified. Didn't hit her, didn't do anything that, because there's a distaste, crossing the line of certain aspects. Right, we keep it tasteful, right? This is entertainment. Good guzzle, hold her out, let that moment sink in, talk mad mess, let her fall. That's the story. It's entertainment, but there's no real, like, difference. I don't really have a favorite, like match. Like, would I rather be in a battle royal? Would I rather be in a singles? I would rather get paid and have a championship over my shoulder. That's what I'd rather, honestly. So if you want to put me in a Royal Rumble, I'm getting a fat check and a chance at a championship and or a championship, or a singles, I'm getting paid with a championship, I'll take either or over. That's all I care about. That's the goal right there.
Obviously, when we have a guest on, we gotta do our research, watch a few matches if we haven't. So I watched a few today and watched both your title matches, one with Drake Durden and one with Valero. And you're talking about how you're always the biggest, strongest guy out there, and that's your gimmick, that you're the Texas Terminator. You're gonna beat someone up. You're the big bad. But Durden is a 7-foot tall monster.
Mm-hmm.
How is just that dynamic of you being the
Oh
smaller
man,
guy for once?
it's so fun. I honestly prefer bigger guys, because if there's an off chance that I can, because then I don't have to, like, muscle them around the whole match, right? Because that's what you do typically. Any guys that are my size or smaller, I have to kind of just toss them around like a rag doll. And that's all well and good. They expect that, right? So then it's like, how do we tell the story of, like, how do we get them over with their agility, their speed, to keep them in the match, right? Um, with a big guy, I can have some fun, because was the background, was it Warpath? Was it blue? I think that was the only one that was released with Durden.
Yeah, it is Warpath. It is
Yeah.
Warpath.
So they didn't show the follow up, because in that one I stole it. Like, okay, so I don't give a, I'll get the heat for it. I hated that booking. Wrestling doesn't make sense, and that infuriates me, because it can. In that booking, as you saw, I had him beat. Right, it was a good match, but I was coming out on top. I was catching him. Ultimately, the story that we had booked it on the card, they had it where I steal the championship and leave, and I'm like, that's so corny. I'm not that type of bad guy where I just, like, oh, but you ultimately, like, I'm getting paid to do this job. Sometimes you got to bite the bullet and play the game, because that's what pro wrestling is. If I'm going to let y'all in on any secret, wrestling, no matter where you're at and what level you're at, not, again, I'll take the heat for this, but I stand by it. Is here's a pile of poo poo, right? Doctor up however you see fit and make it edible. That's essentially wrestling a lot of the time. Bookings make no sense. The storyline that you're pushing, you're like, what is this, right? I walk in, I see the card, and I'm like, not one person in this audience doesn't think that I can't walk out of the champion without the champion tonight. But I have to steal the championship, leave, and then come back and cut a promo. If you stole a championship, you're jumping in the car and you're hightailing it out there, right? Because that was the booking of, hey, take the championship, because you have a bunch of bookings across Texas, and flaunt it as you're the champion. And I'm like, or I can cheat and beat him and be the champion and do it legitimately and then come back and do the rematch, which he's typically obligated to get in his contract, and he can win it back. Oh, isn't that a novel idea? But, that's too easy. So I steal this championship, and the way that we made it edible is he keeps getting up, I get tired, I take the chair, I untie the thing, the turnbuckle, he goes and he reattaches it. Well, while he's attaching it, okay, good, he's distracted. Here's the belt. Hit him with the belt, but the ref sees it. Ding, 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 you're disqualified. Why that's fun is when it's a bigger guy, I can't be stronger than him, right? It doesn't make sense because if I'm stronger than him, then what does he have, right? What's something that he can use to get over on me? So the essence of that is, and as you saw, I did a bomb ass whisper in the wind, right? I can do some crazy athletic. One of my things is there's a picture. I don't know if you've seen it. It's me doing a moonsault, right? I have a beautiful moonsault. I can do the handstand. I can do one of the things I did, and actually it didn't get posted because the promoter was fuming at me because he said, "You're supposed to be this big, strong boy. What are you doing all these flips? You're not a flippy boy." And I'm like, if you're not gonna, and I'm gonna keep it real. I'm looking at it like, man, I love you to death. I would go to war for you. You pay me well. But if you're not going to legitimize my character and put a championship on me, because there's only so many times that I can fight for the championship. There's only so many times that I can take out your top guy without it just being, oh, well, here he is, another championship match. He's going to, how's he going to lose this time? Right. I'm going to get my highlight reels. I'm going to get my pictures. I'm going to get my videos. I'm going to get my gifts that's going to trend on Twitter and what have you. I'm going to make myself prominent at the expense of. So that's what I did. I set the big guy down. Actually, it was Durden again. This is a match that didn't get aired because they were mad at me. I did a front flip off my head into a front roll off of him, then jumped up, did another whisper in the wind across the ring because he wasn't in the middle of the ring. So I had to clear pretty much the entire length of the ring, landed on it. He sold up. I did a handstand. This is a whole spot, a whole sequence. Nipped up, ran across him, did a handstand into a moonsault and landed it. There's a sequence. And I hit all of that. And they were fuming because I'm the flip. You're not a flippy dippy boy. Well, it's like, well, if you're going to give me a stupid booking, I love you to death. That's how I'm going to get my best out of it. Right. I'm not going to be an ass or, I take the heat. I stand by what I do. But at the end of the day, what can I do? Like, you have which in that match, the booking too, the guy that was supposed to be in my corner was supposed to leave me. So he's not going to show much of what he has, right? Because he's supposed to screw me because we're two heels against these two good guys. So it's like, essentially, I can do so much more than just press somebody over their head. If I had to give you an example, just to kind of wrap up this whole ramble again, Brian Cage, right? I take a lot of what I do from Brian Cage and Alexander Hammerstone, right? Are two of my top go-tos for athleticism and big man stunts. But ultimately, I'll face anybody, but facing someone like Durden, it's fun because I get to show more than just strength. I can do everything. I can do a Booker T scissor kick. I can do a handstand, flip. I can do a Jeff Hardy moonsault or a Jeff Hardy whisper in the wind. I can do a AJ Styles Pele kick. I can do anything. It just really depends on who I'm facing, what the point is.
And at that point too, it's a spectacle. Like, that's what I don't get about it, because I love the big meaty men slapping meat. Like, that is my kind of wrestling. I love hosses. But like, when you see one pull out like even just like a kip up, like, you're just like, holy shit, like that just
Braun's kip up, when Braun Strowman did a kip up, and typically guys are like, don't do that. Why? Oh my God. Like, they lose their mind. Like, don't do that. Cause then we have, guys on the show, like, you have your, Cedric Alexander's, your AJ Styles. What can they do now? It's like, dude, it's a kip up, relax. And especially when you're a big meaty man. Did I just see that? I'll give you another example. Brian Cage and Wardlow. Now that's AEW. So their TV wrestling, but it's a lot more indie there than, like, say, a WWE. But again, you see guys like, Wardlow, who did a freaking whisper in the wind. And not only did he do a whisper in the wind, he cleared Brian Cage. And Brian Cage is not a small man. Wardlow's not a small man. So to clear Brian Cage in a clean whisper in the wind, Brian Cage doing a 619, that's not as easy as it looks, right? Because you've got all of 250 plus, 240 plus weight that you have to balance, trying to do. I challenge anybody that thinks, I can do that. Give me 5 minutes in the ring with you. You can't do that, no matter how easy it looks. they make it look easy, hence the professional wrestler. It's like another thing too, is like, truth be told, man, like I'm not a big guy. If we're just shooting here, it's like, man, I'm shoot 5'8", 230. That's my legitimate height and weight. When I'm in the ring, I'm 5'10". I'll probably stick with 230, right? 225, because I don't want to be too big. I need to keep some sort of athleticism in there, especially if I'm facing someone and I'm closer. Like if you see Edge Stone, love that mofo, man. That's one of my favorite people. Edge Stone is 6'4" in boots and all of 215. Well, if you see us together, I got some thickness, but he looks bigger than me. So I'm typically going to be like, okay, Edge, what are you? You'll say you're 230, all right, I'll be 220. So it can be legitimate, right? Like there's, no one that you see on WWE.com like Johnny Gargano, 5'11", Adam Cole, 5'10". You see what I'm saying? Like height and weights are manipulated. So by any means, I'm not a big guy, right? Big guy. I've got some good girth and thickness to me. And on camera and TV, it looks well. And the strength is real, right? The athleticism is real. But when I go to NXT and I've got to face Veer or, shoot, if I'm lucky enough to make it to like Raw and, I have to face almost like, yeah, Jay's not that big of a guy. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So like, anyway, I digress. I can go on for hours on the soapbox. So
I mean, we love hearing the soapbox. I think everything you've said so far has been extremely insightful, and I've been eating up everything you're saying. So
I appreciate that. And I'm not professional wrestling. I mean, much like anything is so rewarding, and it can be so humbling, and you can just like be on the way home from a trip and just like, I am living the life, right? And then other times you're just like, what in the flying F am I doing? What is the point? Like, where is this going? Why is this even like? You're in a relationship with professional wrestling. Is what it is. Like it's your favorite mistress, but then other times you just like when she's sleepy, you just put a pillow over her head. Like just keeping it real. You know what I mean?
we totally get it. I mean, we've talked to plenty of wrestlers and we've heard stories, both good and bad. And some of them it's just like, holy shit, like this wrestling thing that people do is wild. We're just two dudes with a podcast. We're
Yeah,
not the ones actually
that's
doing
funny.
the damn thing.
That's funny.
So I just want to ask, just because we're talking a lot about your athleticism and that
Mhm.
you're not a big guy, but you've done both professional bodybuilding
Mhm.
and you've also done arena football.
Mhm.
So like both of those are extremely disciplined things.
Mhm.
I've played football myself for quite a few years and completely understand, how difficult it can be to work in that aspect and just kind of work to be better. So what parts of kind of your arena football and your bodybuilding styles have you translated to wrestling in terms of like your character or even just how you work out?
So bodybuilding is easy. That's because everything in wrestling is your look, right? Just from a fundamental standpoint. I know when I first went to my camp in 2018, the fantasy camp of books, my athleticism and stuff stood out, but I didn't take my shirt off, or I didn't, there wasn't any like actual representation of what I looked like. They just knew, okay, this kid's an athlete, he can move, and they obviously, this is how I came to wrestle, is because, books said we want to, bring you back to train full time. And I said, oh, well, I was in college, let me get my degree, I was a junior. I was like, let me get my degree. I'll be back in a year and a half tops. Right. So he did that, go get your degree, we'll be here. So sweet. So bodybuilding translated just effortlessly. Right. And obviously when I first got like into professional wrestling, I was stupid lean. I was way more cut, every little vein, every little, I was sliced and diced. But that was the program, right? Like that was the point of, hey, we want to get you noticed. So let's, make you look as cut and as lean and dry as possible. So I was doing like minimal carbs on certain days, no carbs on off training days. And so, I would come in, dying for bread, for a real bite to eat. But man, you could see every striation, every vein. And so when you see a guy like that, you're like, yo, who is that? Right. And especially with my athleticism, the marriage is perfect. And so I only really trained really, and honestly, it's because of COVID, truthfully, that for like maybe 10 months. Right. Or, and then COVID obviously, because I came in August of 2019, obviously what, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So about March of 2020, world shuts down. So that's about 7 months. So I can only imagine the talks in the production office of like, hey, let's gear Jay up and get him ready for, for the show. And then COVID hits. Well, now pause. Now we have to, go back to kind of like the drawing board, because we shut down all the training, whatever. So there were guys that had keys that were kind of sneaking in and, rolling around and doing what they're supposed to, and then wiping everything down. And, when they weren't supposed to be there, but they had keys. So how do you can't keep track of them. But then you fast forward March, April, May, and then like more towards the summer, you kind of had that like where things slowly kind of started opening up and let's see where we're at. And all of a sudden Delta comes back, and then, hey, we're shutting back down again. But essentially when it started kind of opening back up, that's when we started saying, okay, how can we run shows and get our guys out there and keep doing something and get, entertaining fans? Because this is a hard time for a lot of people too. No one likes to be cooped in their house, X amount of hours of the day. So how do we get the fans out there and make a difference too? So we do the drive-in shows. There we are, extra 3 months, I'm training, right? Because I'm sliding in when I can get in too to train. So I'm staying on top of my stuff. There's my debut, but bodybuilding was just effortless. And then obviously now that I'm on the show, been on the show, hey, you're a lot more you're a lot undersized, than a lot of the guys at the top. Let's put some meat on you, right? So from then on, pretty much from like 2021, mid 2020, like 21, like early 2021 to mid 2021, to about now, it's like, hey, it's just we're packing on size. So obviously, I still look good, but I've got a little bit more thickness. My abs aren't as shredded, when I hit my pose right there, like even right here, you can still see certain things, but like the veins aren't just shooting out like they used to, stuff like that. It's been more so packing on size, but bodybuilding translated very well, and even that. Another cheat code there is, I got with IFBB Pro Aaron Sparenberg, who ran with Ronnie Coleman, was a Ronnie Coleman athlete, Gorilla Wear, who Brandon Curry won the Olympia that year. So he was, you got Brandon Curry and Ronnie Coleman, and, on your side, like and I'm, a 2021, that's probably 4 years. So about 23-year-old with a guy that's running with, the Olympia winning Brandon Curry, Gorilla Wear, and Ronnie Coleman. Like we had a business deal, and I was paying pennies on the dollar to what his clients were paying him, thousands and thousands. And that's a whole other story in and of itself that we have to record another podcast. So I digress there. But man, I had Aaron Sparenberg to get me in the best shape of my life, which expedite. And then, obviously Book is an old fashioned traditional guy. So he liked the bigger, the brawner, the guys. So that also helped me out as well. And then arena football, just the physicality. It's when you're an athlete, it kind of it can or can't translate into a wrestling ring. There's been a lot of guys that have gotten up to the pro leagues that, man, it just doesn't acclimate. Wrestling is one of those where you got it or you don't. And if you don't, and you just bust your rear and train for years on end, you might get it, but it's never promised. So it just depends. So football, I think the only thing that football really transferred over was being told I'm a worthless POS. When you hear that throughout your life, from hard nosed coaches, because I came up in the generation. I'm 95, which I'm still young, but I think 95. Truthfully, I stick by that was like the last generation of like understands.
I'll say I'm 97, and I definitely got a little bit of that too.
So there, there's your I would say more of your mid 90s babies were kind of the last real generation of like realism in the world. Where like I play, you play sports and like, you get coaches throwing their play sheets. God bleep it, you sorry piece, get off the field, grabbing the face mask and throwing you to the side. And I'm not saying that was justified or right, but it's a different time, like so when that, you would get to wrestling and like I would have someone talking to me about a move or something, and I was trying to help him out or explain it, and bless him, I love him to death, but he's one of the harshest trainers, Gina Medina at Reality Wrestling. He's one of the most world renowned, signed with MLW. He's currently in Florida training in the dungeon with Natalia and TJ. One of the best in-ring talents, bar none. And excuse me, you look at him, I'm gonna need you to stop talking. All right, shut the hell up. All right, you're doing this too much, right? Whereas most people, like, yes, sir. And I'm saying, yes, sir. This dude's what, a year younger than me, but he's got 6 or 7 years on me in the ring, right? So, it's respect. You know what I mean? And I didn't say another word since, right? And there were guys that, we're doing float overs, right? Where I go for a body slam float over, and we're having trouble getting the form down. And there's just two rookies that really haven't even surpassed their conditioning, and they're laughing. And Gino's like, "Get your shit and get out." And they're just like, he's like, no, I'm talking to y'all. Get your shit and get out. And you're like almost dumbfounded that he's talking to you. And he's like, no, like you want to laugh and you want to be disrespectful to people. Either if you were at this level, I'd tell you to get your ass in here now, and I would mess you up. But no, get out. Obviously, I'm fabricating a little bit. He's not that bad, but there is a certain level of like of respect that goes into it. And he calls you out on it. Like, get your shit and get out. He did say that. Yeah, get your shit and get out. I want to see you in here until you can learn respect. And that that's going to push a lot of people the wrong way, especially in this day and age. But then you get your stuff and you got out. You came back the next day, and or if you came back, if they said nope, it's too soon, leave. Came back in the next week or whatever, and you got a second chance if you were lucky. Just a different time. So football here and there, because just you had the discipline from being an athlete, and then bodybuilding was just natural.
So you just bring out like tough training and training with guys you respect. And we saw I saw on Instagram, you also had a little session with Allison Danger and Athena. Who are some other people you'd like to in the future train with or have a seminar under?
Everybody. I think there's really no. I actually got clowned on that, to be honest. Allison Danger came out with a seminar and it was that's an all female thing, and it's like, man, that's funny that you say that because that was the most informative seminar that I've had, bar none. I've been in Ricky Marvin's seminar. I've been in EC3's seminar. That was actually a CYN tryout too, and I impressed the hell out of him. But Braun went to WWE, and then he went to NWA, so it kind of pretty much axed. But always the future, so I'm optimistic about that. But I was scheduled to fight Shane Taylor. I did do that match, but that day there was a Michael Bennett seminar, and I had I've never gotten severely or significantly injured in wrestling yet, thankfully. But I had I had 2 matches within a week's period of time against the same guy, and it wasn't his fault, but essentially I ducked the line and came up too fast, and when he threw his clothesline, the back of my neck struck his elbow when I came up, and it instantly set me out. So long story, I'm not going to go into that whole spiel, that take too much time. But ultimately, I didn't go to the Mike Bennett seminar because I was a little bit loopy and I wanted to get some extra rest and going into that weekend. So I was supposed to face Shane Taylor that night. And I probably shouldn't have faced Shane Taylor, but I did anyway because it's Shane Taylor, and you're as an up and comer, like you want to get in the ring and show off against everybody that you possibly can, especially at that level. And had a fantastic match, and Shane took phenomenal care of me. I can't speak highly enough about what a standout guy Shane Taylor is. Really, everyone in the business that I have had the pleasure of working with has been very significant and very it's been awesome, to say the least. I really have nothing bad to say about anybody, truthfully. And trust me, I'm not the type of guy to pull punches. I would say if I felt it. But everybody that I've ever been had the chance to mix it up with has been phenomenal. As far as seminars and such, man, everyone and anyone. There's guy, girl. There's any knowledge you can soak up and attain is imperative, is an understatement. Significant is an understatement. Allison Danger, we got there, and from the minute that the time hit, the whistle came out, and she blew it. It was an NXT tryout. She ran it like a tryout. Man, woman, she didn't care. And the coolest part of that seminar was people were doing these drills where you get in the ring, you do the spot, you run out. We did it probably 10 times, and people were gassed, and they were like flies falling out left and right. So what they look for in these seminars, I already knew this, obviously from Booker and AQA and Roxy and the Usos and Athena. Like, you can name the list of people who have gone through, books, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, the amount of people that have gone through Row, and you get the inside scoop too on these tryouts. And they're it's not just what you do in the ring and the little things, but it's also how you conduct yourself when you're not in the ring. And so when I wasn't in the ring, I'm gassed too, but we don't have time to be gassed. I don't have time to be tired. It's not a thought in my head, right? I don't care. The brain's going to do what the body's going to do what the brain tells it to. So if your brain is saying, let's move, we're moving, tired, what is that? Your body's going to do it. And so I'm sitting here like, let's go, bring that ass, let's go, we're going, let's go. And people that weren't jumping in the ring, I was sliding in front of them. And I'll be damned if in that tryout or in that seminar, we're doing the spot, and I'm whatever, this, that, or the other. I turn around to do mine, and here comes Athena, right? From AEW, former NXT champion Athena, and me and her are swinging for the ropes, and we're doing this drill together. And I'm like, I slide out the ring. I'm like, yeah, bro. I just went 10 times, but I could have gone 10 more. Like, you're in the ring with an AEW superstar, former NXT champion. Like, this is what you live for. I'm like, how does that not? And I'm looking out at everybody, and I'm like, and I'm just as gassed, but you wouldn't know because I'm just elated. I'm like, that is what I live for. That's how I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. Because to have that moment is something that you can't do this drill with these people, these up and comers, and turn around and there's Ember Moon, Athena, like doing these drills with you. Like, come on, get out of here.
That's just so like incredible to me. Like like I just see these people on television, and I'm sure you are somebody who works within the business yourself, and it's just the ability to even just touch these people, like just to be able to share a ring with them is mind-blowing to me.
Pick their brain it's yeah, we went to the seminar and we sat there, and I mean, you had a pen and paper, and you're just, because Allison Danger and Athena were telling you, if you have a tryout, don't go to the outside. You don't put your hands on the top rope. I mean, they're just giving you the answers to the test. Are you kidding me? The gym that I train at is the voice of NXT. He's two-time Hall of Famer, right? In Booker T. He's the voice of NXT, right? Officials, I don't know how many times. Like, I remember being before I got to Row Reality Wrestling, AQA. She had gone through WWE, had some health problems, and gotten released, and then got signed to AEW. Texted me, and she's like, "You'll never guess who's at the gym right now." And I was, "Oh, who?" She's like, "Triple H," and a handful of WWE officials. This is still in the Vince era, and this is like 3 or 4 some odd years back. It's right before I got there, and she's like, "Yeah, they're touring the facility. There's a potential opportunity or whatever. I don't know what all was true and what wasn't or what have you." And she's like, that they're going to make Row a feeder, kind of like OVW was in the earlier 2000s. And so I was like, dude, that would be sick. I don't know what came about it or whatever. Fast forward, we have all these opportunities. I mean, we're getting told by production all the time at Reality Wrestling that, this person's watching, or hey, Chris Jericho was curious about something that Gino did, and I'm walking to the back, and there's Shelton Benjamin right there. What's going on, brother? Like, huge fan, man. What is there anything you can tell me about this or that or whatever? Like, what you see? It's crazy that, like, this dude was just just did this, he just jumped whatever on in the hurt business, and now he's in our gym, rolling around with some of our guys. And Bobby Lashley, kind of same concept, come through, and asked the book to polish some stuff, and he's rolling around in our ring, the same ring that I just took a bump in, and such. And then again, you go to this seminar, and you're getting fed these tidbits that no one would know about, and you think, well, I have to have some, I have this tryout, so I got to throw everything, I got to throw the kitchen sink, and that's not at all what they want to see, to get those tidbits, and then even to, get the opportunity to get in the ring and get feedback. Excuse me. To get feedback from an Athena or an Allison Danger. But then lo and behold, you're doing cardio drills with Allison Danger, who's running it as a coach. That's crazy in and of itself and cool. And then you turn around after doing this drill, and there's Athena coming to throw a clothesline at you, and now you're doing the rolls with her. And to get that critique, to get that feedback, from these superstars, these studs in this world who have this industry who've done so much. And then to get a chance to run it with them and give them a hug or whatever, or like, hey man, you're awesome. And then, to get the feedback from them, from your producer, because, they can be petty and say, oh, you did amazing. And then tell your producer or whatever on the phone, and then they suck. They need to go back to square one or whatever. And so to get back, and my producer texted me and said, hey, really impressed Athena and Allison Danger. I'm like, so where's my tryout? So no, but yeah, that's I'll tell you, man, you see yourself, and I'm gonna get on my emotional thing real quick. You really don't, because I don't know, I don't think I'm anybody, right? I'm just some Joe Schmo chasing a dream, right? Who am I? But I get sent these clips from just fans or whatever. Like, I'm a bad guy too, and that's another thing too. That, like, I'm a bad guy. I'm a kayfabe through and through bad guy. Where if I'm in front of people, even if I, like, just gave this kid a hug backstage, if I'm in front of people and this kid comes up to me to give a high five, he's not gonna know any difference. On my face. Are you serious? You're little booger picking self? You think I'm gonna high five you? You said your fingers in your mouth. You're just picking your butt. Get out of here. It's not no little brat. Kid's gonna cry, right? It is what it is. But I'm a bad guy, and I come out and I'm doing my entrance, and I have a fan that I just did one of his radios. He's one of my first radio shows I did. He clips this video of this little kid at the entrance ramp. Like you literally see me front and center, right? Front and center. I'm right here, and then like right here, there's the kid in the background. I'm doing my, my flex right here, and my throat chop right here, and the kid's doing everything I'm doing in the background. He's right here, he's doing this, and he's doing that. And it's like oh, that's cool. And then like you really get a chance, like, I'm laying in bed at night and I'm just dawdling on my phone, wifey's asleep, and I'm just kind of dawdling on my phone. And you see that clip and you're like, you just that's super humbling, like you don't get a real chance to like take that in. Or, I just released my plushies, right? My little slam buddies. And I'm getting all these pictures from all these fans. Because I don't really sell a lot in person because I'm a bad guy, right? I don't need you to buy my. Are you serious? You're not worthy enough to wear mine, right? I think I'm gonna let you wear my shirts, but then I'll sell it online, right? And people will text me pictures on social media of like my little slam buddy plushie that they're sleeping with, or they're traveling with, or the baby's cuddling it, or you know what I mean? Like that's just crazy to me, man. That's just it's special. It's humbling. It's hard to wrap my head around sometimes.
Yeah, I love hearing stories like that too. I mean, the world of professional wrestling is just a wild and wacky one, but hearing people like you and just getting the opportunity to hear your story and just see how much professional wrestling means to you. And so like you are truly one of the people that we've talked to where I'm like, yeah, this dude is wrestling through and through. So definitely appreciate that. Now, we do have one last question that we always ask our guests before we wrap up the episode. And it's kind of cliche, we won't lie, but it's a potential two-parter depending on how you answer it. And I think kind of coming from the seminar talk and just kind of chasing the dream, what is a dream match for you? Any stipulation? Oh, okay. If you know it right away, I have a little bit for it, but
Man, so I think give me a chance to like match size wise. I know we have the very similar skill sets. Obviously, like I said, Brian Cage would be dope to mix it up with, because I think it would be one of those tit for tat, counter on counter. It wouldn't make sense now because he's so much bigger than me, and so I can say this first and foremost because he actually trains with my coach now. So my coach knows him first and foremost, and knows and we know of each other. I've never met personally, but my coach knows that I have my eye, the target, right on Brian, and my coach is like, man, you got to grow. He's massive. He's big as hell. But if I were to match size with him at some point, which I'm only 27, so at some point we will. I'm pretty sure because he's I think 36 or 37 himself. There'll be a time when I catch up to him in some way, shape, or form, and we'll get a chance to mix it up. So that would be first and foremost. I really don't have outside of that like an absolute like, oh my god, my life would be made. I just think I would love to, the more experience I've gotten and the more that I've comfortable I've felt in not just my character but how I go about a match, and learn what more, because that's what ultimately what it is like even Natalia said, like you never stop learning, even someone as famed and from the royalty of family that is her family, the Hearts. For her to say like every day she learned something new is just mind boggling. So I would love to face guys with differentiating styles. I know shout out to my boy Titus Alexander. No connection whatsoever, even though our characters have this similar names. He's out on the West Coast doing big things, man. He's a freaking beast. I met him actually when we were in Vegas, and we wrestled on the same card. Super talented guy, man. See him ball out for West Coast Pro, and what he's doing all over the West Coast there is tremendous. And he's got a very different style than I do, but I know I would be curious to see how that would clash and how we could make some magic with that. Yeah, I don't really have. This is the match. Brian Cage would probably be that, truthfully. But other than that, I welcome any and all challengers. Again, money and championships, checks and championships. Let's make it happen.
Is there anybody throughout history that isn't currently actively wrestling that you had wished that you could have got the chance to wrestle with?
Dude, again with the pro wrestling, that question, and the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, that is so hard to answer. Or even like, who do you take your character from? Like, there's certain questions, man, that like I could get asked. Like, who do you take? Who do you? Oh man, like each wrestler has such a different. Like, obviously, when you face a guy that's, okay, it's a death match, Sabu, right? Because if you're gonna have a certain stipulate, like a ladder match, either the Hardys or RVD, right? If we're talking the tag team Hardys, if it's singles RVD, because if you're gonna do something, let's do it right. You know what I mean? You can't have a casket match without Undertaker, right? Like it has to be that person. I feel like that could be a cliche answer, right? Whatever, name someone on that or that isn't on the active, mat wrestling, dude. You know what? Give me the heat. I would love to roll around with Chris Benoit. Say what you will about the man, but professional wrestler was a terror. That man, submission match. Give me Chris Benoit. Give me a ladder match with RVD. Give me a casket match with Undertaker. I mean, it's cliche, but if you're gonna do it right. Because it again, when you're talking about pro wrestling, from how I was, if you want to go tit for tat on the independent scene, Will Ospreay, right? Let's if you just want to see, if you want to go with some athleticism, let's do that. But if you're talking about story, let's tell a story from a sports entertainment aspect with wrestling moves, then give me the cliche person who exemplifies that match, because that's the only way you're going to have a banger, right? Now, if you're talking about just give me a good solid singles match, I'll take prime time Chris Jericho any day, right? Not
That's a
no
good one.
Pain Master or whatever the Wizard or whatever he's doing now weekly on AEW. I want prime time like Y2J, like pre Y2J or even prime Y2J, like Lionheart, like authentic young Chris Jericho. That is someone that can be technical, someone that can be high flying, someone that I can, who's just probably just the right build that I can toss around here and there. But I think primetime Chris Jericho would be a solid. Go out there and give me a banger singles match, right? But any gimmick stipulation match would have to be with that character that exemplifies that match type.
I think that's a perfect answer to the question. We've definitely gotten
Sweet.
people that have given us, we got a lot of Shawn Michaels, I will say. A lot of Shawn Michaels for that one.
I don't know. Prime again, that's probably I'd put that next to Chris Jericho and prime, like prime Shawn Michaels. Like in the see, it's so tough because like you wonder with guys like that, man, like what people don't realize is like you're talking about what you see on TV as a worker, as a performer. Everyone's different, man. And there's so many guys that probably had banger matches with Shawn Michaels that hated him as a person, and probably the match was so hard to work because he used the match was great from a a fan standpoint, what you're seeing, but like it was probably so difficult to work with them. And the match was great, but they probably hated it, right? Because it was such a experience. And then other guys probably they either hated him and loved the match, or they loved him and hated the match. They loved him and loved the match. Like it's so hard to like gauge, because I've personally been thankful that I've never had to wrestle someone that I didn't like. I've always just gone in and but it does get challenging when you call for something, or you're trying to work with a guy and he kind of has his own mindset, and there are professional ways of like settling someone down who is trying to go too fast or has their own, because at the end of the day, this is what pro wrestling is, we're working together. So there are plenty of guys, I'm sure that anyway, I'm getting too off a beaten path. Yeah. Sean would be a good one though, but not personally for me. Obviously, if I could get the opportunity, it'd be great, but it's not one of the ones that I would immediately go to.
Hey, to each their own, brother. That's the best part about wrestling. There's so many facets of it, and there's something for everybody.
Amen. That's a perfect way to put it.
All right, Jay. Well, with the last few minutes of the episode here, we like to let the guests plug and promote whatever they got going on, being social media, merch, appearances coming up. So with that, the floor is yours.
So with that, I will be announcing that I have signed with. No, I'm kidding. One day, that'd be awesome, huh? What a scoop for y'all. No, that'd be great. That'd be great. You'd be the first one to know. No, nothing yet on that regard. That'd be awesome if that could occur sooner rather than later. But no, so typically I always plug first and foremost would be my link profile. That's typically what I send to everybody when I'm trying to market myself. It's just a one-stop shop for everything that is Jay Alexander. All social media is all media appearances, all the matches with hyperlinks to said matches. And that's pretty much just link app linqapp.com and then / Jay Alexander as it sounds, and then PW. Jay Alexander PW on Twitter, Jay Alexander PW on Instagram. Matchups, October has been super light. I'm really focusing on my health and well-being, which is something that I've neglected for very long. So I'm only doing not even a handful of matches. I've got a title defense for this bad boy right here, my APW heavyweight championship. That'll be this Saturday against the Midnight Rider, Marquise Jackson. That's going to be a good one. He's another one that's I've heard some great things about. That's highly touted. I will be, where else? October 22nd, I'll be in Waco. Details yet to be released for World Class Rev. Don't know my opponent on that yet. I mean, I think I do, but like it hasn't been confirmed. But that's it pretty much for October. And then hoping to make some potential out of country announcements, which you can find on my Facebook, official Jay Alexander PW on Facebook, pertaining to a booking in Asia, potentially. But that's pretty much the gist of it now. My schedule's constantly changing. I think that's the beauty of pro wrestling, is you're constantly on your tippy toes, like what's next, what's coming, where are we going, what are we doing. Bookings are always scheduled to change. Championships are to be earned. And right now it's just trying to promote the brand, and I'm trying to get up the Northeast, make my way out eastward, and then go up the East Coast, and ultimately wherever I can land, expand the brand, checks and championships, baby. So that's pretty much the gist of it. I do want to tell you, gentlemen, Bill, Dustin, how much I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Y'all are awesome. Y'all seem like great people. Thank you for listening to me ramble for over an hour.
Thank you for coming on and rambling, brother.
Of course, anytime, and let's talk it up. Y'all are great, and I'd love to do it again sometime. So, keep me in mind next time y'all need a spot filled or whatever. Let's just have Jay back on. Let's hear him ramble again. I'll definitely have more to talk about. That's for sure. I never have any shortage of it.
I'm sure we'd love that.
Anyways, boys, no, I greatly appreciate it, man. I won't hold y'all any longer, so I'll let y'all do the closeouts.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
We're back from talking with the Texas Terminator. That's why I did that little shitty Schwarzenegger impersonation.
Took me a second to realize that was what that was for.
Took you a little second to put it together. And I'm glad I had to explain it. But Jay's a gem, man. So much great insight into the business and just training from them. I can't wait to have him on again in the future. Great dude, great wrestler. I mean, I gotta say it 5,000 times because I gotta hammer that point in, man. You gotta go out, and if you can get to Texas or go to Texas, watch shows, do it. And if you see that he's traveling to a show, definitely go out your way. He is really great in the ring. He's one of the most versatile guys you'll see, and he knows he can do so much, but he doesn't always. He's very smart too. He's got a great ring mind too. He's not just a great athlete. He's just got a great mind, great psychology for it. And you can tell that he's been trained by a legend like Booker T and so many other people, because he jumps at the chances for these great seminars, because he knows, you got to be a student of the game if you really want to prosper in this business.
Yeah, and I think that's any business. I think anybody who listens to this podcast, obviously you're probably a pro wrestling fan or a wrestler yourself if you're listening to this, but just kind of keeping the sentiment of hard work pays off, and always be the first one in, last one out, and just really dedicate yourself to what you're passionate about. And Jay clearly does that. This is a man, and he said it himself. He thinks, wrestling is what he's meant to do. And after watching some of his matches and just having the opportunity to speak with him and hear how he talks about pro wrestling, he's just one of those guys. I said it in the interview too. He's just one of those guys. That he is gonna do very well in this business. Somebody that you should absolutely keep an eye on. And I really do hope he gets up to the Northeast, because I would absolutely love the chance to see him wrestle in person.
Yeah, says he loves it up here, so definitely want to see him so much and really get to meet him. If he doesn't come down here, shit, we'll fly down there. There's plenty of great wrestling in Texas. Definitely a guy I want to see live really bad, and even more now because he's the man.
Yeah, just saying. And Juice, if the people want to let us know if they've seen Jay Alexander wrestle, or if they have any interest in letting us know where he should go next, where can they do so?
Yeah, on Twitter, it's capital T, capital O, capital T, capital C, _ capital P, lowercase o, lowercase d. Instagram, it's the same. It's TOTC _ POD. And those are our socials. Follow us.
Yes. And as we come crashing down to the mat on this episode of Top of the Cage, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you are listening to us on Apple or Spotify and you do not leave us a 5-star review, that means that you, specifically you, that person not leaving us a 5-star review, will not get 5-star content. And that is just a fact.
Fact.
I was going to say, maybe it wasn't a fact. But, and again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.